Hello, this is Linda Vettrus-Nichols, and I have with me the most amazing person, Deanne Welsh. Welcome, Deanne.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So nice to have you as usual. I love talking about what you love to talk about, especially Women Who Run with the Wolves. That's a great book. I discovered it when I was like 55 and read it pre and post divorce, and then I told you about it. And was I the first person that told you about it?
I had heard about it, I think, from my aunts who are voracious readers, but I hadn't heard about it in years when you mentioned it.
Yeah. I think it's like a good 30 years old these days. And so, yeah, so you just finished eating it. And this will be really fun because I'm going to be doing a summit on it. So I would love to hear a little bit more about your thoughts as far as reading it. Okay, so love is like water. What does that mean for you? I know you have your life story because you were raised on the ocean, which is like, what? So tell us a little bit about that and kind of your transformation into what you're doing now.
So I grew up on ships sailing around the world, and so the sea and water really were my home. And I love this phrase, love is like water, because it's such a reminder that it's easy to take water for granted. It's easy to think it's scarce and there's not enough.
Yeah.
But we really are, you know, for most people, blessed to be surrounded by water. And so being able to see that. And so when I grew up on ships, I always loved writing and journaling. It was how I processed things, it was how I told stories. And so now I am a writer, and I'm actually working on my memoir about growing up on the ocean.
Cool. And those were missionary ships that you were on, right?
Yes, they were. Yeah,
Yeah. And
with
so you're
Operation Mobilization.
what's that?
With the mission organization was Operation Mobilization, OM.
Cool. And so you were on there with your whole family, your parents, your siblings, right? Right.
Yes, yep. We lived in a little cabin and shared a hallway and a bathroom with other people, and
Oh my goodness.
yeah, yeah.
Selfless living. I love it. Okie doke. So solid foundation like ice. What does that mean to you?
It means that when we can really receive the love and affection around us, and even from ourselves, that it is a solid foundation.
Mm.
Um, and that goes right into the next point, where it's tangible and it can infuse everything that we do, and it surrounds us. So it really just becomes about noticing love, about becoming love, and just realizing that it's there for us, and it's not scarce.
Yeah, right. That reminds me of the story of the red shoes where uh the little girl's creative life was interrupted because she had made her own little shoes out of fabric, and then a lady in a gilded carriage comes by and ends up picking her up and then adopting her and buying her shoes and socks and new clothes. And she was just so proud of those little slippers that she had made for. They were like the expression of her. And so when she was like, oh, where are my slippers? She's like, oh, I burned them because they were just so dirty. And I was just like, right? And then she sees those little red shoes in the store and she just has to have them because what she had made for herself was also red. And that just like, how do you, like, what comes to your mind when you think of that story and kind of connected to what we're talking about here?
Yeah, I love that story. And it reminds me of how often, as children, we have these gifts or these passions, but then at some point there's a critic, whether it's internal or an external person, saying, these are not good enough, you'll never make this work, why are you wasting your time on that? And so, in a sense, they get stolen and burned.
Mm.
And I think there's such power when, as adults, we can tap back into those gifts and talents and like emerging creations that we want to create.
Yeah, absolutely. And just I was getting goosebumps through all of this because it's like, whoa, right? It's a big wound actually, and
Yeah.
And then author Clarissa Pinkola Estes, author of Women Who Run with the Wolves, she talks about the river beneath the river. And your life can be crap. Like, you can have a really rough life if you keep the river beneath the river. So your life is like the river, but the river beneath the river is the one that you can control, and you can keep your creative life going. And if you don't, that's when you are going to die. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And that's really, as a child, what journals did for me. They were that river like the river beneath the river, where I could share my thoughts, my feelings, even though I didn't always feel like they could be a part of my everyday life, because I was afraid they wouldn't be accepted. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And now you're digging into them and bringing out this amazing book. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Definitely. So the book, it starts when I'm 12, and we move from Germany, where we had lived for 4.5 years, to the ship. And so I'm right on the brink of adolescence. There's all of these identity questions. And then suddenly I'm cast away to live on the ocean, which I did not want. And so the story is really a story of exile and a story of survival. And woven in there is all the different places visited and experiences that I had while living on the ship.
Yeah, it's like emotional survival, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Wow. Because your basic needs were totally taken care of, right?
Yes, but it's an emotional, spiritual survival journey. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. The surrounding us everywhere, you hear the water, water everywhere, and not a drop to drink when it comes to the seawater, because you can't live on it. You can't drink it, right?
Yes.
So we can do that to ourselves, surround ourselves with things that we don't take advantage of or step into, even though they're all around us, and we don't even realize that they're attainable. Does that make sense?
Yes, we're blind to them. So we literally, at times, because of whether it's scarcity mindset or just thinking that we're a victim, then suddenly we're blind to all the opportunity and the options around us.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what you do in your Unstoppable Writers group. You can do it, right? The cheerleader in you comes out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love all the stories in Women Who Run with Wolves that talk about this same philosophy or lesson, that you can do it, don't give up, you're stronger than you know, you have everything you need. And especially the story of the handless maiden, how even though, her hands were cut off, even though all these things happened, she still kept moving forward and kept both embracing the season which she was in, and also like realizing her full power within that season to grow and move forward.
Right. And that story reminds us that it's not just us that's, here to support us, that there really are others, even if they're in more of a spirit form, and just have a sense of the guidance or the help. Like, I remember when her baby fell into the well, and the spirit that's helping her is like, well, go get it. Reach in and get it. And she's like, but I have no hands. And she's like, and I like to change the story a little bit, do your best. And she's like, what other choices did she have but to just stick those stumps in there and see if she could get her baby? And her hands start to grow, right? And she does get her baby, and her hands keep growing, and they go from little tiny baby hands to full-grown woman hands. And I love that. What does that mean to you, like, getting back our hands?
I think it's profound, because so it's easy to wait and think, I don't have this, I can't do this, and like just kind of accept that we like don't have hands. But there's power that we really do receive hands, and we can do it as we move forward and take that small action, take that next step, do our best, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
And so that story is so profound, because when we act, that's when we gain courage. It's not, waiting for courage to arrive. It's when we act, we gain courage and we gain clarity.
Yeah. For me, it's one of our bullshit filters. Like, oh, I don't have any hands. Like, really? Go watch the video on YouTube, A Day in the Life of Bonnie Consuelo. She was born with no arms, let alone hands, right? And
Yeah.
she took care of her own babies. She had a stool that twisted and was up high enough so that she could dip her legs into the crib and scoop up her baby, put it on the bed and get the diapers changed. And she said the greatest compliment to her was to be at a coffee party or whatever, and have someone come with a saucer and a cup and offer it to her while she's just standing there with no arms, right? And
Yeah.
she could just like take it with a foot and just stand there on one leg with her coffee and drink it. It's like, wow. And in the day that movie was filmed, it was like Cadillacs and big heavy doors, and yeah, she could just take that toe of hers and get that Cadillac door button pushed and open it herself and drive, go to the grocery store and bag her groceries and pay all with her toes. You know, it was like, wow. It was so inspiring to me. I saw it in the early days of getting my special education training a million years ago. Oh, I love that story. And it was really fun to find that out on YouTube recently. Okay, so you're stronger than you know, and then you have everything you need, and you have the people and the resources. And these days, it's almost like, who can't succeed? There's all these, free levels, and then once you're making money and growing your company a little bit bigger, then there's a small fee charged for, the lower end paid level. It's so beautiful. I love the energy of the new world where everybody is being well supported. And that's like my number one thing, to see women especially well supported. And I know our men are coming along, and I really feel that the women get to encourage the men, great, also get out of their way, stand back and let them, do their own retreats and work it out like we've been, does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And it actually reminds me of a quote I heard where it said, with Google and God, I can do everything.
Wow, that's hysterical. Yup, it's all out there, folks. Okay, so beauty is always right there. What does that mean to you?
It means that even in the most devastating circumstances or painful circumstances or difficult, that there's always beauty around us, beauty that we can see and receive to nourish our souls.
Yes, absolutely. And there's no such thing as ugly. That reminds me of the story of the ugly duckling, who was really a swan and from the swan family, and yet was, the ugly duckling because it was a weird looking duck. And it was with the duck family, right?
Yes.
What did you get out of that story?
I love that story because it really is a story of kind of being exiled, growing up where you don't fit in, not being fully understood. And I think every single human has either like full-on experiences of that or different areas of themselves where they feel exiled, they feel like they don't fit in.
Right.
I also think about how, as artists, like if you think about someone who sketches, they don't, sit down and say, I'm going to draw a nose and I'm going to draw eyes. What they're looking at is the shades and the textures. And so they're not judging the object that they're painting. They're really just interacting with it and seeing, what does this look like? How can I shade this? And so I think having the artist perspective on life at times and not labeling things and judging them, right off the bat or harshly, can really open us up to a deeper understanding of who people are, why they are the way they are, and then loving them instead of labeling them as ugly.
Yeah, allowing the differences, so to speak.
Yeah.
One of the things that I learned about, like, when children bring artwork, it's right along those same lines. Instead of saying, oh, you drew a tree, or oh, you drew a house, it's like, tell me about your picture. Right? Because what looks like a tree could be a spaceship, right? That's all part of the imagination. It can be anything that the artist chooses it to be.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and that's a powerful question that you just said, asking people, tell me about this, or, tell me about your life. And then it's, instead of us just slapping a label on or assuming.
Yes, absolutely. I go real deep on that one. Okay, so life is colorful. What does that mean to you?
It means that it doesn't have to be just black and white. It doesn't have to, like, we get to have colors and variety and differences, and that's a great thing.
Yeah.
And that even relating back to the book too, it means that, there are different seasons of the soul. There are different colors or emotions of the soul, and just embracing the spectrum.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, I'm just going to do this, or this emotion's not okay, but really embracing the spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have it handy. I have a book called We Are One Woman and We Do Shine, Unity Without Uniformity, right? Yes, we're all humans. Yes, maybe like for the veterans, like we're all women and yet we're all serving together, even with men. And yeah, just taking a look at, okay, what unites us, and then honoring what separates us, because life would be really bland if we weren't all bringing a different flavor to the table, so to speak, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Go beans. All right, so every being has goodness within. There are some people that just, have the remembrance. I mean, all kids come in with that ability to see the beauty in another. And as adults, we forget. And it's really fun. And a lot of times it's someone who's been through a great deal of trauma in their life. There is such beautiful souls because they're showing their soul to you. And they can see the other person's soul and the future, almost like the outcome of maybe the work that they're saying that they want to be doing in the world, or the message that they're bringing to the world, and they're not sure about it. Some people can totally see the outcome of that and can see the successes for that person when that person can't. So it reminds me of that, digging in the tunnel and getting, this close to like breaking through and giving up, right?
Yep. Yeah. Well, and that's really, I know, Linda, that you're the same way, that when we work with clients, like, we get this picture of what success could be for them, but so often the person themselves can't see it yet, or doesn't fully believe it, has the doubts, the dragon lies. And so being able to see, like, not only the goodness that is, but also what the goodness can become.
Yeah, that's why I do that exercise about getting them to their soul and letting them speak from it, and just plain old recording it and then actually typing it up and putting it into words, and it blows them away and it makes them cry, and they're like, you made me cry. And I said, yeah, I do that. I make kids cry too. Actually, I really make parents cry. I've been a real pro at that one. One time I was working with a kid who every time he had a major seizure, he'd lose like 6 months of schooling. And my background's special ed, and I was doing a lot of private clinical work. And so he did end up having a really wicked seizure and ended up in the hospital. And so I didn't see him for like 2 weeks. But guess what? When I got back with him, he had only lost 2 days of presentation because of the way I imprint the brain. Isn't that cool?
I love that. Yes.
His mom cried.
Yeah.
It was awesome. All right. So there we go. You have an amazing free gift for people. Thank you so much. A whole chapter of your book that you haven't even published yet, but you already have one chapter out there and available. So thank you so much. I love your cover, by the way.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so the book, I'm so excited to be writing this book because there are thousands of people who either grew up as nomads or, have had that piece of themselves that has felt exiled or not fitting in.
Yeah.
And so the great thing about this book is that the external story is exciting about traveling all these different countries and experiences, But then there's this depth and this capturing of the emotional journey and the part of identity and kind of finding ourselves in the midst of change and changes. And so I'm really excited to be working on it, and I'm excited to share the chapter with you. I hope you enjoy it.
I know we will, because I haven't seen it either.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. That was very generous of you. Appreciate it very much. Well, thanks for joining me, Deanne. It's always a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.